We just saw the 4th teaser for Avengers Doomsday, and we need to talk about it. First of all, this trailer is not online officially yet. I believe it is currently in theaters. It has leaked, which is not incredibly surprising. All 4 of them have leaked so far. As of right now, the plan originally was this is the last of the 4. We have no information to suggest that is not the case. I wouldn't be shocked if a 5th or 6th trailer shows up. The rumor of what was happening behind the scenes up until this point was that Marvel had cut together a bunch of trailers, like 20 different trailers or something like that. They showed them to people, and then they kind of got feedback, and then said, all right, we'll do these ones. Which, if this was really working, and if they were getting lots of coverage and getting people excited, and they had a 5th one that they liked, I wouldn't be shocked if they put that out there next week. It's not like each of these teasers ends with like part 1 of 4. This is always just like what people were told about this strategy, but they could totally change it. I don't want to be like one of those Stranger Things fans think there's a secret episode out there. I'm just saying, as far as we know, this is the last teaser, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's another one. We also kind of know, I believe now, that there will be a big trailer at the Super Bowl, which is not shocking because it's like a month-ish away, and it's a huge event. Thunderbolts had a big trailer at the Super Bowl last year, which I think way too early showed off all the Sentry stuff, but still it was like got people excited, so that's good. There have been rumors that Marvel wants to hold off on showing Robert Downey Jr. Dr. Doom for as long as they can. But I've also heard people say that maybe that will be what they use to hook everybody, is showing Dr. Doom for the first time. Because obviously there's so much in this movie. Like, we have no idea how long it's going to be, but there's so many cast members. And clearly, if the first teaser taught us anything, other people that are in the movie that did not get shares. So, like, there's lots of surprises. I don't want them to give away lots of surprises, but at the same time, like, I think there needs to be something to tie all of these teasers together. I think it's going to be that Super Bowl trailer, and I think it will be probably a look at Doctor Doom. So this 4th teaser features 4 characters. The first of which is Shuri, played by Letitia Wright. I'm going to describe the trailer to you. I'm not going to show it because I don't have the footage, but use your imagination, and I'm going to tell you what they say. That's important. So we see Shuri walking towards the desert. We see kind of from her back, she's wearing the traditional Black Panther costume. Well, it's a little different. Her costume and M'Baku's costume both have some sort of blue, kind of teal-ish aquamarine accenting. I don't know if that is some sort of like fusion of the Talokanil, because Talokanil, that's kind of part of their aesthetic, but it's not enough of an aesthetic. I'm like, oh, that definitely means this is a fusion of their 2 technologies or something. But they do have a blue armor. That's nice. It's always good to make me buy more toys. We get the Black Panther music, the drums and the singing, which is interesting because I don't think any of the other teasers had music that was specific to those characters. I think by now some fans, especially me, know the Captain America theme, or like know that bum, 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 bum. That's Captain America, right? That is not in his teaser. Thor, I couldn't even tell you what the Thor theme is. There is one. It's some sort of like bum, bum, bum. Yeah, see, that's how much I don't know what it is. And that's not to say it's bad. It just doesn't come up a lot. And then there's the X-Men theme. And since these are the Fox X-Men, it would be the ba-na-na-na-na. But that also is not in their teaser. I like that the Wakandans got some music. I wish the X-Men had gotten some too. But I also understand that we want some more cohesion between these to like make it seem like they're all part of one movie. I think this is the first one where you could kind of see it and go like, if you don't know what's going on, go, oh, is there a new Black Panther movie? Oh, it's a Black Panther. Cool, cool. And then you get the surprise at the end that it's not just a Black Panther movie, and then you see what it is. So maybe that explains why they went with that music. Anyway, I don't know. It's cool. So it's Shuri talking. Shuri's still very, very sad following the events of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where her dad earlier, but then her brother and then her mom all died. So Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, has voiceover that says, I've lost everyone that matters to me. Then we see the Talokanil. First we see Namor, played by Mabel Cadena. Not necessarily the most consequential character, but another character, a named character, and like a Marvel character that matters in the comics for sure, who did not get a chair. So it's not just going to be Namor necessarily. There could be other Talokanil. Maybe a Tuma will show up. I can't remember if he dies in the last one. It's been a while since I watched it. Then we see Tenoch Huerta in his cape, which we've never seen him in a cape before. Sitting down, being angry, more facial hair than usual. This Namor and many Namors in comics traditionally are sort of sourpusses. You know, they take themselves very seriously, and he is no different here. And Shuri says the line, the king has his duties to prepare our people for the afterlife. Which is true. Wakanda has a lot of focus on the dead. This is something that is way more prevalent in the comics, although we have like the spirit realm and everything where we see the past Panthers, but like there's an entire city of the dead in Wakanda that is actually where a lot of the events of Time Runs Out take place, because that becomes the Illuminati's secret hideout. I'm not saying this is an allusion to that, but that is something the Wakandans traditionally care about. So she says, the king has their duties, I have mine. Again, in case you've forgotten the events of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Shuri is the new Black Panther, but she is not the leader of Wakanda. That is M'Baku, who we will see in a second, played by Winston Duke. And I think that makes sense, especially considering where Shuri is right now, where she was then, but also where she still seems to be, which is very depressed and not the kind of person you would necessarily want running a country. You want someone with a level head who's not trying to settle scores, and that would be nice, wouldn't it? And that's M'Baku. M'Baku, especially in the last movie, he's kind of a cooler head, even though he does like to mess with people and call Okoye a bald-headed demon. But he is currently the king of Wakanda, which makes sense because he bought a lot of goodwill with the elders of Wakanda in the finale of Wakanda Forever. So, like, makes total sense. I like Winston Duke. I am glad that this character has been elevated to this point, because traditionally in the comics, M'Baku, or the Man-Ape, as he is called, is not the most consequential figure in Black Panther mythology, but I think this is one of those moments where, like, the right actor in the right role at the right time, which is made like this character is someone audiences want to see, we should do more with him, and also like it makes sense for him to be the next generation of Wakandan leadership. So M'Baku walks over and introduces himself to someone. He says, King M'Baku of Wakanda, and then we see who he's talking to, and it is the Thing from Fantastic Four, and he says, Ben from Yancey Street between Broome and Grand. Which makes sense. He's not the most formal member of the Fantastic Four. He's kind of everyman, so he doesn't know how to introduce himself to a king. That's always been a problem that these characters have had, much like Mark Ruffalo bowing in Infinity War. And that is always fun, this clash of not just different characters from different universes, but different kinds of characters from different kinds of movies coming together and meeting. And then the last shot, you see M'Baku getting on the ship, and Shuri is looking out into the distance at something, and then it says, the Wakandans in the Fantastic Four will return in Doomsday. That's the end of the teaser. Very simple. The most important thing about it, this is the first one that shows two different groups of people, or characters, whatever, from different movies meeting, right? All the X-Men in the X-Men trailer were the X-Men. Thor was the only person besides his daughter that was in the Thor trailer, and Captain America was the only person besides his baby that was in the Captain America trailer. So, like, that is significant. Now we're starting to see the crossovers. I do think that joke, the I'm M'Baku and then, like, I'm the Thing from Yancey Street, that feels to me like, I think if you know what's coming, it does feel like sort of not the most exciting, just because those characters don't have a history together. I think if it was Shuri meeting Reed Richards, two smartest people in the universe, that would be interesting. Like, oh, they're going to meet. What are they going to talk about? M'Baku meeting Sue Storm, the diplomats. Oh, that's interesting. What are they going to talk about? But like M'Baku and the Thing, it's like, what do you guys really have in common? Why is it interesting to see you guys here? And of course, the really interesting moment here would be to have Namor meet Sue Storm, but we're not going to do that in teaser 1 for sure. I have a feeling something like that will happen. I'm sure we'll all clap and cheer when we see it, but either way, I think the pairing here is odd. That being said, I think this teaser is effective. What this feels like to me is this bit would come at the end of the actual trailer, right? Kind of like the Infinity War trailers, whole trailer about Thanos, and then you see like the name Infinity War, and then you get that little stinger at the end where Thor sees the Guardians of the Galaxy. Who the hell are you guys, right? Avengers Doomsday, and then King M'Baku of Wakanda introduces himself to Ben from Yancey Street, and then the date the movie comes out. Like, that feels like how these usually go. Not to say the Wakandans of Fantastic Four meeting isn't significant, because, as I think I've said before, the Fantastic Four, it was a huge comic back in the day. A lot of characters made their debuts in the Fantastic Four. The Inhumans, for example, are characters that showed up in Fantastic Four comics, and that's how a lot of characters came to be big stars, right? Sometimes, sure, you know, Miss Marvel comes fully formed, and they're like, this is Miss Marvel, and everyone goes, cool, and then she's just part of the team. That works. Other times, though, like, this weird Canadian guy is fighting the Hulk in the Hulk book, and then like, oh, this guy's pretty cool, let's put him on the X-Men, and then he becomes a Wolverine, right? Black Panther's one of those. He was introduced in a Fantastic Four book, and then spun off into an enormous part of the Marvel universe, but I think that's partially why they chose to have these characters meet, because it is significant for that reason. And in case you're like, but why Black Panther? Why are we doing that instead of like Thunderbolts or, you know, Captain America, Brave New World, like those guys? Because the Black Panther movies are the most financially successful movies, pound for pound, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, besides Avengers movies. But like the Thunderbolts, people like the Thunderbolts, they don't make $1 billion worldwide, but like Black Panther 1 made $1.3 billion and Black Panther 2 made $800 million. Like, those are enormous hits. So if anybody's like, why these guys? That's more than enough of a reason for me. You could ask yourself, though, why Thing? This is a question that I had coming out of this teaser. It's like, if this is the way M'Baku's presenting it, some sort of like diplomatic, like first contact meeting, why wouldn't the Fantastic Four send one of the 3 human-looking members of their guys, just in case whoever shows up to greet you thinks you're a big monster guy, which is a thing that the Thing, I feel like, deals with a lot. Maybe, he's not as used to it on his Earth, but like, I feel like he would be sort of cognizant of that. Why wouldn't you send Reed Richards, the smartest man in the universe? Why wouldn't you send Sue Storm, the diplomat? Why wouldn't she be the one who you send out? Why wouldn't you send all of them? Which leads me to believe, and this is just a guess here, we're guessing at things, the Fantastic Four probably split up in this movie. And not in like a Civil War way where it's like, oh, they hate each other now. In a way like, listen, you go over there, you go over there, you go over there. We have different maybe agendas, different things we have to do, and you have to make contact with the Wakandans. They send the Thing to do that. Only because, he seems like the last person you would send on this mission. Even though he's very friendly, he looks like a rock monster guy. Also, another question that came for me watching this teaser, does Ben Grimm know what Wakanda is? I don't believe we saw the country of Wakanda represented in Fantastic Four First Steps. I don't think it's crazy to assume that in their universe, Wakanda just has not been found, even though that didn't happen in the 616 universe until the late 2010s. But also, it could be fun if they're like, we're the Wakandans, we're this society. He's like, yeah, I know, we got Wakandans. They're everywhere. It's very, very common on our Earth. Why, are you guys like a secret? You guys hide in like here? That's interesting. That's not how we do it. We didn't see that in their movie, but I think we're taking for granted the fact that the Thing isn't like super familiar with Wakanda. The big question coming out of this trailer is, hey, where are they? What is this location? There's some sort of desert scape, pretty nondescript. And it definitely doesn't look like Wakanda traditionally looks. It doesn't look like what the Fantastic Four Earth traditionally looks like. And it doesn't look like what Talokan traditionally looks like, since that's underwater. So we have a couple of options for what this could be. Number 1, a desert or something in Africa, maybe close to Wakanda. Maybe like the ship crashes and they go to investigate, thinking it might be, hostile aliens. The Wakandans would be the characters closest to like getting into the deserts in Africa or anything like that. Other option could be the Void. I've seen people theorize it might be the Void. 2 points against the Void for me. 1, you usually can't fly a ship there, so the Wakandan should not be able to be there in a ship. And the second one, it just doesn't look like the Void. There's usually random stuff in the background, like a castle or a big 20th Century Fox logo if you're a Deadpool movie, but like stuff. There's usually stuff, and that does not seem like what this is. The other option is maybe they're in Talokan, and maybe something happened where like the ocean's dried up, or at least the specific part of the ocean that Talokan is in, and that is one thing that Namor is really upset about. We see Namor, he is above water. Namor is wearing a mask. Maybe that's because something terrible happened to Talokan. That is interesting. But if you describe this scene to me, I would just expect it to be set in like the outskirts of Wakanda. And it is not, which seems significant. What else? Let's talk about Namor for a second. Namor is a problem. Out of all of the characters introduced in the Chair video, he is the one that strikes me the most as the one that's going to mess this all up for everybody by going off script. Even if he's supposed to be on the same page as everybody else, which I wouldn't even say that's where he is right now. Because at the end of Wakanda Forever, yes, Namor is surrendered to Shuri and seems like things are cool, but he still goes back to his people and is like, I actually did a pretty good job, and now they're going to be our allies when we need to fight the people we really need to fight. And it's like, if you think that means if there's an incursion, the Wakandans are just going to kill everybody you want to kill, you are not necessarily right about that. Namor is also the most cold and calculating, kind of pragmatic leader traditionally in Marvel Comics, and definitely in these movies. So like, I think if someone, and people have said this potentially, this movie will be about the Fox X-Men universe and the Marvel 616 universe, like the MCU, being on a collision course in an incursion that's going to destroy both universes. So like, this is what happens in the comic time runs out that led up to Secret Wars, is the Avengers had to deal with the fact that in these scenarios, like either one universe destroyed the other or both universes would be destroyed. So it was like, oh, we need to think of another way. But then other characters like Namor would be like, no, we just kill him. Let's go get him. Namor famously also did that. He destroyed a universe to prevent an incursion in the comics, something that made Hyperion real mad at him. So I would say if our characters are being manipulated in any way, or if there's someone who's trying to drive a wedge between certain characters, Namor is the character that you start with. Like, I don't even think Magneto at this point in his life, based on what we've seen from his teaser, would align with Doctor Doom the same way that I think Namor would. Even Loki's not even close, and he's Loki. That's how much of a loose cannon Namor is. The other problem with Namor is technically in these movies and in the comics, he's a mutant. So if this world versus world conflict comes down to mutants versus everybody else, I could see a world where Magneto or Professor X or something says, hey, Namor, you're like us. you are persecuted on this earth, but on our earth, the one that we have fostered, the one where giant robots are stepping on us and destroying us, but like not usually, that's an unusual thing. But like on our earth, mutants are more protected and will take care of you. I could see him switching sides for that reason too. And obviously not everybody in Talokan is a mutant, but you know, Namor's Namor. I don't know. I also like his cape. I think he's got a cool cape. I'm hoping, it seems like his costume might be based on that bag, like the black and blue vest that people are pretty familiar with. I think he wore it. I mean, he's worn it a lot. He wore it during the Uncanny X-Men run. It's a classic Namor costume, so it'd be cool to see. Now let's talk about what I think is the most important part of this trailer, is the writing, specifically what it says. We have Shuri in this trailer talking about how everybody she cared for was dead, how it is the king's duty to lead his people to the afterlife. Now in a vacuum, not that unusual. However, when you look at what the other teasers have said, it's like that is kind of a theme that we're dealing with here. And it makes sense because it's an Avengers movie and the fate of the world is always at stake. But it does feel like this movie is harping a little bit on the idea of imminent death, characters facing death. How do you prepare for it? Time running out, right? Thor pleading with Odin to let him win one last fight so he can protect his daughter. Magneto is talking about death comes for us all. Obviously he knows that because his friend Charles keeps dying, but the question isn't, are you ready to die? It's what are you going to die for? What kind of person are you going to be when you die? So you have these characters saying like it's a king's responsibility to protect his people from death, to get them ready for the afterlife. That's what's important when you're thinking about death. But then you have Magneto saying maybe the ends don't justify the means. Maybe you shouldn't, destroy another universe to save your own, because it really matters is what kind of person you are when you die. But, I do think that there's something here, and it's something interesting. Like in the Infinity War trailer, Thanos says, destiny still arrives, you run from it, hide from it. That does feel like that's the vibe of these teasers, even more than Infinity War. Because with Infinity War, it was like, we gotta stop Thanos. How are we gonna stop Thanos? But with this, it's like, what are we gonna do when we die? What happens when we all die? It feels like the Doomsday kind of end of the world part of this movie is going to feel different because of how inevitable the idea of incursions in the multiverse being destroyed is. And like the way it's been set up in the movies, it has been keeping the multiverse together. It's been this very precarious balance of like not doing the wrong spell to let all the Spider-Man people destroy our universe, or not doing enough what if stuff so that destroys the universe, or Doctor Strange in one universe causing incursions to stop Thanos. And then we have Loki basically just becoming the timeline and holding it all together. But like that's something that can't last forever. And I think it's interesting because, again, not to spoil it because I don't know this, but just based off the most basic assumptions you can make about a movie like this, Doctor Doom is going to try to maybe upset that balance, create some chaos, and take advantage of that chaos. That's how all the stories with him go. That's how original Secret War went. That's how Time Runs Out goes. Like it's how these stories go. And I'm not trying to say that's what I think will happen, but I think it's interesting because these teasers have not set up a conflict that's like, how are the Avengers going to fight Doctor Doom? What are they going to do to fight Doctor Doom? The teasers set up this conflict of like, we might die soon, and like that's bad. Is it worth killing other people for? What's our king's duty? What's our duty as people? I just think that's really interesting. Like, I'll say the writing for this, I mean, I really like the Magneto teaser. It's going to be hard for me. Even if this teaser was perfect and had all kinds of cool, I would still love the X-Men one more because I just love those movies. But I also think that line, death comes for us all, right? That's like a powerful line. And I think in the same way that it is a king's duty to prepare his people for the afterlife. It's a very interesting line. So I'm excited for the writing of this movie. I will say, like, the Russos, when it comes to directing these characters, obviously they haven't done Namor or the Fantastic Four characters, but they did a good Shuri back in Infinity War. Their Shuri was good. I don't think M'Baku said more than a word in Infinity War and Endgame, but still, I think the Russos can do this. I think it looks good. I think the visuals of this are fun. I think personally for me, if they had released them Captain America teaser, Thor teaser, this one, Wakandans in the thing, and then X-Men, I think that would have been like kind of the expected hype curve and why some people maybe aren't as into this new one as they were into the X-Men one. But I do think that is just because like seeing Cyclops looking awesome and Sentinels and stuff, like that's something that comic fans have wanted forever. Whereas seeing M'Baku talk to the Thing is not quite at that level of coolness. But let me know what you thought of the teaser, comments, Twitter, all that stuff. I don't want to sound like a delusional fan. I wouldn't be surprised if they put one out. Obviously, I'll talk about this as the Super Bowl comes up. If you're jonesing for more videos about the X-Men, I'd recommend a video by Lindsay Ellis. It's called Trying to Make Sense of the X-Men Cinematic Universe Timeline. In it, Lindsay and Angelina partially just sort of reminisce about the wonderful Fox X-Men movies and like what they meant to superhero cinema at the time, and also try to connect them all to each other in what is, a fool's errand and always has been for X-Men fans, but I think is a fun exercise and is a fun way to just like remember what we loved about these movies, kind of why they're fun and quirky. And that video is an hour and a half long. I don't know if technically it is longer than any X-Men movie to date. I would have to assume if it is, it's probably either X-Men Origins Wolverine or New Mutants or Dark Phoenix. Maybe those to me feel like they would be the shortest ones just because they're like not that great. But you can watch Lindsay's video right now exclusively on this video sponsor, Nebula. You guys have heard me talk about Nebula before. It is a subscription streaming service that I helped to create. A bunch of us video essayists, and I don't like call myself a content creator, but like content creators got together and we were like, hey, these platforms that we have to work with, they're great, but they have some problems. And the big one is we wanted to just make great videos, give them to you guys. We wanted to make a nice, clean, well-organized place where you can go to watch all of our videos. They all go up early, so every Nando V Movies video and Nando Cut video go up early. They're all ad-free. You can download them to your phone, which is a feature I don't hear nearly enough people talking about, but is incredibly useful. Like if you don't want to have to eat up all your data or deal with the Wi-Fi at the gym or something, download some videos. You'll have them with you. Also, this is a thing that wasn't a concern when we started Nebula, but has become a concern when talking about the other platforms is, I don't know about you, but when I jump onto other platforms, I am flooded with AI. We were talking about it just now in regards to the Thor trailer. Like, it is everywhere, and it makes finding information, especially useful information, really, really difficult because you don't know if it is being made by a person, and if it's not being made by a person, A, you don't want to support it because AI is bad, but B, like if you're trying to learn something or get some information, AI just makes stuff up. So like I have gone to so many videos trying to learn things about comic book characters that I kind of know some stuff about, but don't know everything about. Like, oh, I want to get brought up to speed on like the full story of Cable or something like that. And just immediately you hear something and like, that's not true. Oh, this is AI. Okay. Yeah. Ignore that. The videos on Nebula are all made by real people. And that didn't used to have to be a selling point, but now I think it might be the best selling point. There's also all kinds of cool videos you can only find on Nebula. Like Lindsay makes videos almost exclusively for Nebula. One of her most recent videos was about Bluey adults, and the one after that was about dash cam footage. So it really covers a pretty wide spectrum of things. Then you've got short films like Patrick Williams' Dinner Plan, or series like Maggie Mayfish's Amy's Dead End Dream House. And you have what we haven't like fully announced, but will be coming out sometime next year, our show Subliminal. It's our first like dramatic series. I wrote an episode. I think it's pretty good. I've seen parts of it now because it's like coming together and been edited and all that, and like it looks great. I can't wait for you guys to see it. If you want to support us, give us more opportunities to do cool stuff like that, and you want to see our videos early, ad-free, download them and see other creators on Nebula, because all of your favorite creators and your next few favorite creators are on Nebula right now. Like there's something for everybody. And a yearly subscription to Nebula is $60 for a whole year. That is $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, or the link in the description, or you use the QR code, you can get a year of Nebula for just $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an incredible deal. And if you want to check Nebula out on your own, sign up for a 3-day trial. I guarantee you will find something you like. Again, that is go.nebula.tv/thenandocut.